Hey everybody, and I'm here again for another installment of Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. So we are reacting to I think here are chapters 25 and 26 maybe already at this point in time. And so yeah, I'm going to be short and snappy about it the way that I was for the last one. So we have two Shalom chapters, and we have a little bit of an in-between section that deals with Navani, Dalinar, and Wit having a conversation. But so let's focus on that section first, and I can just like completely dive into Shalom as two chapters like separately after that. So the Navani, Dalinar, and Wit conversation is basically just kind of like seeing like, okay, what are we going to do next? And Navani basically trying to get Dalinar to back out and not try to become honored. So basically kind of trying to be like, okay, why does it have to be you? Why cannot somebody else do this? Because basically she doesn't want things to potentially change between them, but also not the dangers that Dalinar might be exposed to if he goes through with this plan, especially since, you know, like Wit is also very apprehensive about it, so that definitely doesn't really seem very favorable to what they're about to do. So and then of course the tables kind of turn on Dalinar when Navani then says like, okay, but then I'm going with you because you're gonna need somebody by your side who is going to be able to, you know, like help you out in trying to figure everything out. And so Dalinar is kind of like, okay, yeah, he doesn't want her to be the one, but the same way that he told her like, you know, it cannot just be like my greatest general or anything like that, it has to be me who does this. He also cannot in that sense tell her like give me one of your other scientists, because he realizes like, no, it's the best one that needs to come, and that is Navani. In this chapter we also have Wit kind of mentioning the giving up of the shard, and saying that there's only one person who's ever given it up before, like thus referring back to Vin, who gave it up at the Well of Ascension at one point in time. And then there's also a repetition of the fact that there is inconsistencies with the Stormfather's time, or like the Stormfather's story, and that, you know, there are things to be discovered there with the story that Stormfather has been telling people, and whether he's been lying or not. So that has been like brought back, so that definitely is going to come into play. When it comes to Shalom, we have now entered into the Ghostbloods meeting room, where she sees that Sha-Anat, something like that, right? So another one of the Unmade is kind of spying on this Ghostbloods meeting, and so then she makes it into the room with a whole ton of people who are Ghostbloods. That's when she finds out that this guy, and I keep on forgetting his name, Felt, who is one of Dalinar's crew, no, not Dalinar's, Adolin's crew, is basically a Ghostblood and has been spying on them, and so that kind of, you know, like makes her feel uncomfortable and makes her feel a bit annoyed, because, you know, like she had come to the conclusion that she was the spy within their camp, and now it turns out that it was actually not her, it was this Felt guy, or basically there were two spies involved in this whole deal, and so she now knows that they know that the location of this Unmade, but because she's now spying on them, she also hears their plan, and their plan basically being that they're gonna kind of jump into Dalinar's like move to the spiritual realm, because basically Dalinar is going to open a perpendicularity in order to move into the spiritual realm, and basically that is apparently how they are going to do it as well. And what's interesting there is that they're also basically saying like, you know, things can go wrong, we can potentially be in there for decades, and basically they're like, oh, we're fine with that, whatever, you need to like deal with stuff in our absence, but if we end up being gone for like decades, like basically suit yourself then, you know, that seems to be the conclusion there. Yes. But so Shallan is basically listening to this conversation, and Mraize is kind of like playing around with a crossbow, and then it turns out that Shallan reaches the conclusion that Mraize isn't just like playing around with a little bit of a fun tool or anything like that. What Mraize is actually doing is like practicing shooting out his crossbow bolts, and that he could potentially use this in future to shoot down Radiants with anti-light, thus like draining their investiture. Which would be interesting and cool for a future sort of like battle scene. Yes. Yeah, jump on. Yeah. But so yeah, Mraize is doing that whole sort of conversation, and in the meantime she realizes that, I can never remember this person's name, Ayatel, I think, has kind of been keeping an eye out on her, and she's become like super anxious about this whole thing, but she gets like a little bit of a pep talk by her other identities, kind of indicating to her, look, these guys are all just people, there's no reason to be like super anxious that they have figured you out. They make mistakes the same way that everybody else does, just like do your best. And Shallan kind of really takes courage from that, and we get to kind of listen in on some conversations, because it seems to be going wrong, because this Ayatel approaches her and starts speaking to her in a language that Shallan does not understand, but she kind of manages to bullshit her way through it relatively well. And at that point in time, she's also kind of like implying Sha-Anat a little bit, to kind of misdirect their attention away from the fact that she cannot speak their language. And then Sha-Anat and Shallan kind of have a little bit of a conversation between the two of them, in which Sha-Anat kind of indicates that, like she knew it was Shallan, but that she's not really going to be selling her out neither. But apparently Sha-Anat was supposed to be like spying on Dalinar on the behalf of the Ghostbloods, in order for them to know when they have to kind of get ready to jump in on this move to the spiritual realm. And it's more or less at that point in time and thing that Ayatel finally like realizes that Shallan isn't the person that Ayatel thought she was, that it's actually a Radiant hiding in there, and so Shallan is discovered. So this whole section has been really interesting, in the sense that like it really got my, like, not really my anxiety boiling, but definitely there were moments in which I was like, oh, is she going to be discovered, or like, come on, like there were a few times in which she was like tempted to give the signal to her co-workers in order for them to help get her out of there, and that she was like, no, I'm gonna stick around a little bit longer, because I didn't really actually find out anything in particular. And then but then like she doesn't go through it, and it's like, come on, let's just do it, just because this is going to end badly. And so yeah, we'll see if she, like, how easily she gets out of it now that she has been discovered before having sent the signal to her cohorts to get her out of there. But definitely the ending of the previous chapter, when like this Ayatel approaches her and starts speaking a language that she doesn't know, was already like a moment to which I was like, ooh, I want to read on, like, why do we have to go into the Navani and Dalinar conversation now? And so this second like end to a chapter in which basically this Ayatel realizes like, oh, she's a Radiant, is another one of those moments that make me go like, ooh, let's go ahead. So yeah, I'm almost up to speed. I still have 2 sections that I can read in Wind and Truth to be fully caught up. So yeah, I'm gonna go and definitely still read the next section, and then we'll see whether I might keep the final section for when I'm back from my holidays.